When you hear the word cancer, time seems to stand still. For me, it wasn't just any diagnosis, it was prostate cancer. The quiet kind that creeps in unnoticed, making you question your strength, your future, and if I'm honest, even your identity as a man. But here I am, years later, still standing. Not because it was easy, not because I was lucky, but because I learned how to fight differently, smarter, gentler, and more powerfully than I ever had before. And today, I want to share that journey with you, the truth about what I faced, what really worked, and the habits that helped me heal my body, rebuild my mind, and reclaim my life. Part 1, the diagnosis that shattered my world. There's a kind of silence that settles over a room when a doctor says the word cancer. It's not just the absence of sound, it's the crashing realization that life, as you know it, has changed forever. I was 58 years old, still working full-time, proud of the life I'd built. I thought I had time to slow down later, time to take better care of myself eventually. But that word, cancer, hit me like a freight train. It echoed in my mind long after the doctor left the room, followed by a wave of questions I wasn't prepared for. What does this mean for me as a man? Will I lose my strength, my independence, my dignity? The subtle signs I ignored. Looking back, the warnings were there. I started waking up more often at night, needing to use the bathroom. My stream wasn't as strong, but I brushed it off as just getting older. I was tired. But who isn't? Right. I convinced myself it was nothing. Work, bills, and family came first. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The day everything changed. I still remember that cold, sterile office. The doctor's voice was calm, too calm, as if softening the words could make the truth easier to bear. Your PSA levels are elevated, and after reviewing the biopsy results, it's confirmed prostate cancer. I nodded outwardly, but inside, my thoughts spiraled out of control. This wasn't just a health diagnosis, it felt like an attack on my very identity. As men, we're taught to be strong, steady, unshakable. And in that moment, I felt anything but. Would I lose control of my body? Would I face incontinence, impotence? I wasn't just afraid of dying. I was afraid of losing myself before that even happened. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, drowning in thoughts I couldn't escape. I felt a shame I couldn't even explain to my wife, to my children, even to myself. Will my wife still see me the same way? Will I become a burden? How do you fight a battle when the enemy is inside your own body? And then, sometime before dawn, something shifted. I realized that while I couldn't control the diagnosis, I could control how I chose to respond to it. That moment was the start of my real recovery. If I'm going to fight this, I'm going to fight with everything I've got. But this time, I'm fighting smart. I'll work with my body, not against it. And no matter how hard it gets, I won't lose myself along the way. That promise became the foundation of my healing journey. And it all started with what I put on my plate. Part 2. What I learned about diet and hormonal health. Feeding strength, not fear. They say food is medicine. But when you're staring down a cancer diagnosis, it becomes more than that. It becomes survival. In those early weeks after my diagnosis, I dove into research. I didn't want to rely solely on treatments and hope. I wanted to understand how my body worked and, more importantly, how I could help it fight back. And what I discovered shocked me. Much of what I had been eating, processed foods, red meats, heavy dairy, wasn't just unhealthy. It was quietly feeding the very disease I was trying to fight. The foods that had to go. The first and hardest step was letting go of the foods that sabotaged my body's natural ability to heal. Processed meats and high-fat red meats. Bacon, sausage, fatty cuts of beef. These were regulars on my plate. But research from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health showed that high consumption of animal fats and processed meats increases the risk of aggressive prostate cancer. Dairy products. I grew up believing milk and cheese were essential for strong bones. But I learned that high calcium intake from dairy can suppress calcitriol, a hormone that helps regulate healthy cell growth. Multiple studies linked excessive dairy consumption to higher prostate cancer risk. Refined sugars and processed foods. These were the silent enemies. Processed sugars spike insulin and insulin-like growth factor IGF-1, which fuels the growth of cancer cells. I had to say goodbye to sugary snacks, sodas, and anything that came in a brightly colored package. At first, it felt like punishment, but something remarkable happened as I started making better choices. My energy returned. My mind cleared. And for the first time since my diagnosis, I didn't feel like a patient. I felt like a man reclaiming his life. The foods that became my medicine. Instead of focusing on restrictions, I focused on nourishment foods that help heal and balance hormones. Tomatoes and cooked tomato products. Rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that supports prostate health. Studies from the National Cancer Institute show that men who consume more lycopene have a significantly lower risk of prostate cancer progression. Cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. These contain sulforaphane, a compound that helps detoxify harmful estrogens and supports healthy testosterone balance. Green tea. I swapped out my afternoon coffee for 2 cups of green tea daily. It's rich in egg, a polyphenol known to slow the growth of prostate cancer cells. Pomegranate juice. In moderation, pomegranate juice became part of my morning ritual. It's packed with antioxidants and has been shown to reduce PSA levels in men with prostate cancer. Flax seeds and chia seeds. Tiny but powerful. These are rich in lignans, which block harmful estrogen pathways and support hormone balance. I add them to smoothies and salads daily. Healthy plant-based fats. Avocados, walnuts, almonds, and extra virgin olive oil became my primary sources of fat. They support hormonal health without the inflammation caused by saturated animal fats. My daily healing plate. Breakfast: oatmeal with chia seeds, fresh berries, and ground flax seeds. A small glass of pomegranate juice. Lunch: a vibrant salad with mixed greens, cherry tomatoes, steamed broccoli, avocado, and grilled salmon, drizzled with olive oil and lemon. Snack: a handful of raw almonds and a calming cup of green tea. Dinner: quinoa or brown rice with stir-fried cruciferous vegetables, seasoned with turmeric and black pepper. A side of roasted sweet potatoes. Before bed: chamomile tea with a teaspoon of honey to relax and support natural melatonin production for deep, restorative sleep. The science that gave me confidence. One of the most powerful studies I found was by Dr. Dean Ornish, who proved that a plant-based, low-fat diet combined with moderate exercise and stress management could slow the progression of early-stage prostate cancer. And another study in the Journal of Clinical Oncology showed that men following an anti-inflammatory diet experienced significantly lower risks of cancer recurrence. This wasn't just about food anymore. It was about reclaiming power over my health, one meal at a time. Each bite became a declaration. I'm no longer feeding my fear. I'm feeding my future. Part 3. The power of rest and testosterone recovery, healing while you sleep. If there's one thing I learned the hard way, it's this: you can't heal if you don't rest. For years, I wore my exhaustion like a badge of honor. Late nights at work, early mornings back at it again. I told myself, I'm tough. I can push through anything. But after my diagnosis, I came face to face with a difficult truth. Healing doesn't happen when you push harder. It happens when you allow yourself to slow down. The nights I couldn't find peace. In the months following my diagnosis, sleep became my greatest struggle. I was physically drained, but the mental weight wouldn't let me rest. My mind raced through endless what-ifs. What if the treatments don't work? What if I lose my strength, my identity? What happens to my family if I don't wake up tomorrow? I was trapped in a cycle of exhaustion and anxiety. And every day, my body grew weaker, my emotions heavier. Then I discovered something that completely reframed how I viewed sleep. Healing hormones are released while you rest. If you're not sleeping, you're not healing. The science of sleep, testosterone, and cancer recovery. During deep sleep, especially between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., your body enters full repair mode. This is when your body produces melatonin. Not just a sleep hormone, but a powerful antioxidant that protects against cancer cell growth. It's also when your body boosts testosterone production, essential for maintaining energy, mood, muscle health, and immune function. Studies from Harvard Medical School and the Journal of the National Cancer Institute show that poor sleep patterns are directly linked to higher cancer recurrence rates and lower testosterone levels. Without deep rest, your body simply doesn't have the strength to fight back. How I finally learned to rest and heal. Sleep wasn't something I could take for granted anymore. I had to treat it like medicine, an essential part of my recovery. Here's what worked for me. A consistent sleep schedule. I committed to going to bed by 9:30 p.m. every night. Consistency helped regulate my body's natural rhythms. Morning sunlight exposure. I started each day with 15 minutes of sunlight. Natural light helps reset your circadian rhythm and supports healthy testosterone production. No screens. After 8 p.m., I turned off the news, put down my phone, and reached for a book instead. Blue light from devices suppresses melatonin and delays restful sleep. A calming nighttime routine. I brewed chamomile tea, listened to soft music, and practiced 4-7-8 breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8. This breathing method calms the nervous system and prepares the body for deep, restorative sleep. A cool, dark room. I kept the room cool around 65 degrees 18 degrees C and installed blackout curtains. Darkness naturally triggers melatonin production. The morning everything felt different. The first night I followed this new routine, I woke up feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. My body didn't ache. My mind wasn't drowning in fear. For the first time, I felt rested, clear, and ready to face the day. That's when I truly understood rest isn't a luxury, it's preparation for the fight. If you're not giving your body the rest it needs, you're fighting with an empty tank. So tonight, as you lay down, remind yourself, this isn't just sleep. This is healing. This is my body rebuilding and preparing for tomorrow. Because sometimes the most powerful step toward recovery is simply allowing yourself to rest. Part 4. Exercise that supports prostate health, moving toward recovery, not away from it. When I first heard my doctor recommend exercise after my diagnosis, I'll be honest, I wanted to laugh. How am I supposed to exercise when I can barely find the energy to get through the day? But what I didn't realize then is that exercise isn't always about pushing harder or sweating more. Sometimes, it's about moving gently, deliberately, and with the clear intention to heal. How I used to think about exercise and why that had to change. Before cancer, exercise was about ego, lifting heavier, running faster, looking better. But cancer taught me something far more valuable. Movement isn't punishment, it's medicine. I wasn't moving to sculpt my body anymore. I was moving to support my heart, restore my circulation, rebalance my hormones, and most importantly, to remind myself that I was still alive and capable of healing. The science behind movement and prostate health. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that men who engage in regular moderate physical activity have up to a 30% lower risk of prostate cancer recurrence. And it's not just about survival, it's about improving the quality of life. Exercise lowers insulin and insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, levels, both of which are linked to cancer growth. It naturally boosts testosterone production, which supports mood, metabolism, and immune function. And it improves blood circulation, delivering vital nutrients to tissues while helping the body clear out toxins through the lymphatic system. The movement that helped me heal. I didn't try to reclaim my youth in the gym. I focused on gentle, consistent movement that honored where my body was and helped me move forward. Here's what became part of my routine. My morning walks 20-30 minutes. Every morning, I laced up my shoes and went outside. I didn't track my steps or worry about my pace. I simply walked to breathe fresh air, feel the sun on my face, and remind my body, we're still moving. We're still healing. Light strength training, 2-3 times a week. Building and maintaining muscle wasn't about aesthetics anymore. It was about preserving my strength and keeping my hormones balanced. I used light dumbbells and resistance bands for simple exercises, bodyweight squats, seated shoulder presses, and resistance rows. Even 20-minute sessions made me feel stronger and more confident in my body again. Gentle yoga and stretching twice a week. Yoga taught me patience. It improved my flexibility, relieved chronic tension, and, most importantly, calmed my nervous system. I started practicing deep stretching before bed, and the quality of my sleep improved dramatically. My body felt lighter, and my mind found a kind of peace I hadn't experienced in months. The mental benefits of movement. What surprised me most wasn't how my body responded, but how my mind transformed. Each time I stepped outside or moved through a gentle stretch, I felt like I was taking my life back, one small step at a time. The Journal of Cancer Survivorship published a study showing that cancer survivors who engage in regular movement experience 40% less fatigue, 30% improved mood, and significantly higher long-term survival rates. But for me, the most important statistic wasn't in a study. It was one more walk, one more deep breath, one more day that I chose life over fear. So, if you're wondering whether you have the strength to move again, take one step. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be far. Just one step forward. Because every step you take away from fear is a step toward freedom. Part 5: The Mental Battle, Overcoming Fear and Shame. They say cancer is a battle fought in the body, but the hardest fight I ever faced was in my mind. No one prepares you for the emotional weight that comes with a prostate cancer diagnosis. It's not just fear of death, it's the fear of loss. The loss of identity. The loss of control. The fear that you're no longer the man you once were, or the man your loved ones believe you are. The quiet shame no one talks about. I remember standing in front of the mirror after my diagnosis. I didn't just see a man with cancer. I saw someone who felt broken. Less of a man. Prostate cancer doesn't just attack your body, it attacks your sense of masculinity. I started questioning everything. Will I be able to maintain my relationships? What if I lose intimacy with my partner? Am I still strong enough, valuable enough? And because we, as men, are taught to stay silent and strong, I locked those fears deep inside. But the silence became heavier than the fear itself. The breaking point. One night, after weeks of pretending everything was fine, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I broke down, not because I was weak, but because I was tired of pretending to be strong when all I felt was fear. That night, through tears and exhaustion, I made myself a new promise. I don't have to carry this alone, and I don't have to hide my struggle in silence anymore. How I took back control of my mind. I found a support network. The first step was reaching out to a local cancer support group. Sitting with other men who'd walked this same road changed everything. I realized I wasn't alone in my fears, and neither are you. I practiced mental visualization. Every morning, before I even got out of bed, I imagined myself healthy, strong, and whole again. I pictured my body healing, my steps steady, my voice confident. Science supports this too. Studies from Harvard University show that mental rehearsal activates the same neural pathways as real-life experiences. Over time, this reduces stress hormones and strengthens the body's immune response. I faced my fears head-on. Instead of running from anxious thoughts, I met them directly. When fear crept in, I asked myself, is this fear helping me heal or holding me back? And then I shifted my focus to gratitude, finding one small thing, no matter how insignificant, to be thankful for. Some days, it was simply, I'm still here. And you know what? That was enough. The day I finally found freedom again. It didn't happen overnight. But one day, I caught my reflection in the mirror, and I smiled. I realized that while cancer left scars on my body, it never touched my soul. I was still here. I was still standing. And I was still capable of living a life filled with purpose, with joy, and with love. So if you're walking through this storm right now, hear me clearly. You are not broken. You are not less. And you are most certainly not alone. True strength isn't hiding your pain. It's having the courage to face it and keep moving forward anyway. Take a deep breath, look at yourself in the mirror, and say these words loud and clear. I'm still here. And as long as I'm here, this fight isn't over.